So today, we're diving into something really fascinating, a theory that suggests the Quran isn't just a text, but that it might also contain a hidden, perfectly coherent mathematical structure, a kind of numerical code just waiting to be unlocked. Okay, let's get right into it. This idea of looking for numerical patterns in sacred texts, it's not new at all. For centuries, people in different traditions have explored numerology, trying to find deeper hidden meanings. And that brings us to the big question for this explainer. Does the Quran actually have a deliberate, built-in numerical system? Now, what makes this particular theory so interesting is that it doesn't just start anywhere. The entire system is apparently built on a single, solid foundation, one specific verse from the Quran. This isn't about plucking random numbers out of thin air. It's about starting from a point that's explicitly mentioned in the text itself. And here it is, Surah Al-Hijr, verse 87. The whole theory hangs on this verse because it directly mentions a number. This isn't a case of interpreting a word as a number. The number is right there, given directly in the revelation. And the crucial number is the number 7. Because it's explicitly stated in the holy text, this theory says 7 is the foundational number. It's the primary key that unlocks the entire system. Pretty much everything else we're about to see grows directly from this one starting point. Now that verse refers to the 7 of the often repeated, or mathani. And there's a widespread scholarly understanding that this refers to the 7 verses of Surah Al-Fatiha, the very first chapter of the Quran. The one that's recited in every single daily prayer. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do you build a whole system without just cherry-picking numbers that fit? Well, to avoid that, the theory establishes a very clear set of rules. Think of them as the logical pillars that hold the whole structure up. It all boils down to 3 core principles that work together. First, there's this idea of numerical significance. Second, a principle called mathematical coherence. And finally, a method of symbolic reading. Let's just quickly break down what each of those really means. First up, numerical significance. The argument here is that certain numbers, especially a divinely mentioned one like 7, aren't just there to count things. They're believed to carry a deliberate symbolic meaning that was embedded by the Creator. Next, we have mathematical coherence. In classical Quranic studies, there's this beautiful concept called munasaba, which is all about the deep, intricate connections between different verses and chapters. Well, this principle takes that idea and applies it to math, suggesting that a similar web of interconnectedness exists numerically, pointing to a divine harmony. And the third principle, symbolic reading, really connects the dots between the abstract numbers and our own spiritual life. It takes the very first command revealed in the Quran, Iqra, which means read, and suggests it's an invitation to a much deeper kind of reading, one that tries to understand the hidden structures of the text, not just the words on the surface. All right, so we've got the rules of the game. Now, how does the theory actually use them to unlock these patterns? This is where we get to see these principles in action. The theory uses a really powerful analogy for the number 7. It's not just a static number. It's seen as the system's numerical DNA. It's this foundational building block that can be multiplied and expanded to reveal much more complex and beautiful patterns, just like real DNA builds a complex living thing. But it's not just about the number 7. The theory also introduces another key number. This one's a derived constant. Now, the source material for this theory doesn't really go into how the number 126 is derived, but it's presented as a consistent figure that's central to the system. And the key operation is multiplying it by itself. And what you get is 15,876. So within this system, this isn't just some random result. It's presented as a significant core constant, a key piece of this proposed divine architecture. Okay, so this is where that principle of mathematical coherence really gets put to the test. The argument is that when you start combining these special numbers, something pretty amazing happens. Take a look at this equation. 7 times 7 times the number 15,873. Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, that's 3 less than the constant we just saw. And you're right. According to the theory, this isn't an error, it's an intentional adjustment, pointing to yet another layer of the code. But just see what happens when you combine these specific numbers. The result? 777,777. I mean, look at that. It's this perfectly symmetrical, harmonious pattern. And proponents of this theory would argue that a result that elegant is no coincidence.
For them, it's a clear signature of a deliberate, divine design.
So we've seen the what and the how, but what about the why? What's the ultimate point of all this? The goal here isn't just to do math for the sake of math. And this is a really, really important point to understand. The proponents of this theory are very clear that this numerical approach is not a replacement for the centuries of traditional interpretation. That is the established foundation for theology and law. Instead, this is offered as a supplementary tool, a creative new method for personal spiritual reflection, or what's known as tadabbur. Ultimately, the whole idea is to connect these perfect mathematical structures to the perfection of the Creator. The numerical harmony is seen as a symbolic reflection of divine attributes. It's a way of linking these patterns back to the 99 names of God, the Asma al-Husna, names like Al-Hakim, which means the All-Wise. And all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If we set aside the debate about mathematical proof for just a moment, the theory really asks us a deeper question. Could numbers, this universal language that we all understand, offer us a totally new language for spiritual reflection? A different way to just stand in awe of the structure and harmony of revelation?